In the heart of the mountains, where storms echo through endless stone halls, a mother dragon dares to defy centuries of cruel tradition. Beat down for giving life to daughters instead of sons, she makes a choice that could cost everything. Escape into human lands, where danger and hope wait in equal measure. Her decision will test courage, loyalty, and the true meaning of freedom. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The cave walls trembled as thunder rolled across the high mountains. Deep inside the stone halls, the air was thick and heavy. Every sound echoed. Every breath seemed louder than it should have been. Cirrus pressed her body against the cold rock, trying to make herself small. Her golden scales, once bright as fire, now carried cracks and shadows. The storm outside was fierce, but the storm within her heart was fiercer. Her 4 daughters huddled together at the far end of the cavern. Nola, the eldest, stretched her wings slightly to shield the younger ones. Safi leaned into her, always quick to notice danger before the others. Tari whispered soft notes under her breath, a habit she had learned to calm herself when fear rose. And little Gia, the smallest of them all, trembled like a leaf caught in the wind. The stone halls had once been a place of safety. Now, they were a prison. The Mountain Council had judged Cirrus harshly. In their eyes, daughters were not gifts, but disappointments. The council valued only sons, heirs who would fight, rule, and carry names into history. Daughters, they said, could be traded like coins, used to seal alliances or sold as servants. This old law, carved deep into the mountains, had robbed generations of choice. Cirrus remembered a different time, when she was young. Her mother had told stories of dragons who once lived in peace beside humans. In those ancient days, both daughters and sons had worth. Families built cities together, carved rivers through stone, and planted orchards in the valleys. But that world had vanished. Now the council's voice was law, and cruelty wore the mask of tradition. The storm outside grew louder, each roar shaking dust from the ceiling. It was as if the mountain itself was speaking, warning her that time was running out. She thought of her daughters' futures. She saw Nola being sent away to serve strangers. She saw Safi's clever hands chained to tasks without meaning. She imagined Tari's voice silenced before it could ever grow strong. And she thought of Gia, so young, losing her chance to dream at all. Her heart ached. But inside that ache, something brighter stirred. It was the old flame of courage, hidden but not gone. It whispered that she had a choice, even if it meant danger. That night, when the council's voices faded into silence, Cirrus gathered her daughters close. The air smelled of damp stone and fear, but her voice was steady. "Listen to me," she said, her words soft but firm. "Tomorrow, before the first light touches the peaks, we will leave this place." Nola's eyes widened. "Leave the halls? Mother, where will we go?" "To the valley," Cirrus answered. "Beyond the ridges lie human lands. There are stories of kindness there, stories of a beekeeper named Dal who remembers the old words. If there is even a chance those stories are true, it is better than staying here." Safi's voice shook. "But the council will come after us," They will not let us go. Ceres looked at her second daughter and placed a wing gently on her shoulder. I would rather face the winds of the storm than the chains of the council. Freedom is worth the risk. Terry whispered, "Do you think the humans will help us?" "We cannot know," Ceres replied, "but we must try. Hope is stronger than fear." Gia, small and trembling, whispered so quietly it was almost lost in the storm. "I can hear the valley calling. It feels like a softer place." Ceres kissed her youngest on the brow. "Then we will follow that call." The hours crawled by. The storm outside howled, rain lashing against stone. In the distance, lightning flashed like a warning and a promise. Ceres closed her eyes and listened to the rhythm of the thunder. Every strike told her to be ready. Every echo urged her not to delay. When the cave finally grew quiet and the council slept in their higher chambers, Ceres moved. She spread her wings wide for the first time in years. They were weak, but they still carried memory. "Stay close to me," she told her daughters. "The storm will hide us." The 5 of them stepped toward the cave mouth. The air was sharp and wet, heavy with mist. The world outside looked vast and dangerous, but it also looked open, free, and full of unknown paths. Ceres took one last look at the stone halls. She thought of the centuries spent under those ceilings. She thought of the chains of tradition, the cruel laws, the laughter of those who had called her daughters worthless. And then she turned away. With a single powerful beat of her wings, she rose into the storm. Nola followed, strong and steady. Safi kept close, her eyes searching the clouds for safe lines of wind. Tari hummed, her song mixing with the thunder. Gia flapped with all her might, and when she grew tired, Ceres let her rest on her broad back. The storm became their shield. Lightning painted quick shapes of the cliffs below, but darkness was their friend. Together they flew, carrying nothing but hope and the will to be free. Beneath them, valleys stretched into shadow. Ahead of them, beyond the ridges, lay the unknown world of humans. And in Ceres's heart, the ember of courage flared brighter. For the first time in many years, she believes her daughters might have a future built not on fear, but on choice. The storm in the stone halls had driven them out, but the promise of freedom pulled them forward. Their journey had only just begun, and the world waited, silent and vast, ready to test their strength. The night storm had carried them across the high ridges, and by morning their wings ached. The valley spread below them like a painting, brushed with green fields and silver streams. Wooden houses dotted the land, smoke rising gently from their chimneys. And at the edge of the orchards, neat rows of wooden boxes stood, each one humming with the low, steady song of bees. Ceres felt her body grow weak. The flight had cost her more than she wished to admit. Her golden scales, already marked with scars, dulled as blood seeped from old wounds. She landed heavily among the apple trees, knocking fruit to the ground. The branches shook, and the sound startled her daughters. Nola rushed to her mother's side. Safi began to push fallen apples away. Tari hovered protectively, and Gia pressed her tiny claws into the soil, whispering, "We must hide." But hiding was no longer possible. A light glowed between the trees, slow and steady. Footsteps approached, careful and unhurried. An old man stepped into view, carrying a lantern. His hair was gray, his eyes gentle. He looked at the dragons not with fear, but with long silence. Then he set down the lantern, as if to show he carried no threat. "You are hurt," he said in a voice both calm and kind. Ceres stared, surprised to hear the words spoken in fragments of the ancient tongue. "You know the old language?" she asked, her voice low. The man nodded. "I know a little. My name is Dal. I am a beekeeper. I study the ways of the land, the old stories of when dragons and humans lived as neighbors. Will you allow me to help you?" The daughters looked to their mother. Ceres lowered her head, tired and desperate, and whispered, "Yes." Dal led them to a barn near the orchard. Its wooden doors creaked. But inside was space and warmth. Straw covered the floor, and the air smelled of hay and honey. "This barn has been empty for years," Dal explained. "It will shelter you for now." Ceres lowered herself onto the straw. Her daughters curled around her, but their eyes stayed wide. They had never known kindness from strangers. Dal returned with water, cloth, and jars filled with herbs mixed with honey. He worked gently, cleaning Ceres's wounds, wrapping her scars, and speaking softly to the daughters so they would not fear. Nola watched closely, fascinated by the way he tied the bandages. "Your knots are simple and strong," she said. Dal smiled and showed her how to fold and pull the cloth. By the second try, she tied it perfectly. Safi found a pile of old clay near the barn wall. Her claws shaped it quickly into small figures, bees with delicate wings. Dal admired her work. "You have the hands of an artist," he said. "This valley has never seen such detail." Safi's eyes shone with pride, though she spoke quietly. "I was told my hands were useless." Tari wandered outside and began to hum as she swept the barn floor with a broken broom. Her soft voice carried through the orchard, and the bees changed their flight to match her rhythm. Dal paused, amazed. "Your song, it soothes them," he whispered. But it was Gia who startled him most. She stood before the largest hive and tilted her head. "They are worried," she said. Dal frowned. "Worried?" Gia touched the wood with her small claws. "Tiny creatures inside hurt them. They are afraid." Dal opened the hive and saw the problem. Mites had spread through the colony. He had tried many remedies before, but nothing had worked. "Can you help them?" he asked. Gia nodded. She spoke in soft sounds, almost like the buzzing itself. The bees grew calm. She built a small pile of bark and leaves by a stump, creating a new home. Then she whispered again, guiding the mites out of the hive. Within hours, the bees were free, their hum steady once more. Dal knelt beside Gia, humbled. "You understand them," he said. "You listen in ways we never could." Word of Dal's thriving hive spread quickly through the valley. Neighbors came with questions about their crops and animals. They noticed the orchard looked brighter, the bees stronger. Dal only said, "Good friends helped me." He did not reveal the family in the barn, but whispers already traveled. Each daughter grew in her own way. Nola studied Dal's books on wind and flight, correcting designs with sharp insight. Safi filled the barn with clay figures, teaching village children who visited with curiosity. Tari's voice lifted each evening, calming not only bees, but hearts. Gia spent hours near the hives, learning secrets from creatures smaller than her claws. Cirrus watched her daughters discover who they were when fear did not rule them. It gave her strength. Her body healed under Dal's care, but more importantly, her spirit lifted. "Why do you help us?" she asked one night. Dal sat by the barn door, listening to the hum of his hives. "Because life should be honored," he said. "Dragons, humans, bees, we all share this valley. When one suffers, all feel the loss. When one heals, all share the hope." Cirrus closed her eyes. In her long life, she had heard countless speeches about power, strength, and tradition, but never before had she heard such simple truth. Outside, the orchard bloomed in late sunlight. Bees drifted from flower to flower, carrying the promise of fruit. The barn, once empty, was now filled with quiet laughter and small creations. But shadows do not rest for long. One afternoon, Dal noticed a cart pause at the edge of the orchard. The driver watched the barn too long before turning back toward the road. Cirrus saw it as well. She said softly, "News is traveling faster than we hoped." Dal nodded. "The valley is kind, but beyond it are laws that may not understand." Still, in that moment, they chose not to fear. Cirrus curled around her daughters, and Dal sat nearby with his lantern. The orchard hummed with bees. The barn glowed with new life, and for the first time, hope felt real. The valley had grown quiet in the weeks that followed. Bees hummed with steady rhythm. Children from the nearby village came to shape clay with Safi, and Nola spent long evenings over books, sketching new ways for air to move. Tari's voice often floated out from the barn, calming both her sisters and the hives, while little Gia whispered to the bees and listened to their hidden language. It was a season of peace, but peace has a way of drawing attention. One bright morning, the sound of wheels broke the calm. A carriage moved slowly along the orchard path, pulled by a dark horse whose steps struck sharp against the stones. Dal saw it first from the field. He set down his tools and walked toward the gate, his face calm, but his heart heavy. He knew the Empire rarely sent carriages for friendly visits. An official stepped down. His clothes were neat, his boots polished, and his eyes sharp like a blade. "I am Inspector Kuhn Park," he said, his voice low but firm. "There are reports from this valley. Your honey yield has risen by threefold. Your bees are healthier than any in the region, and neighboring farmers say your methods seem almost magical. I'm here to see for myself." Dal bowed his head politely. "Welcome to my farm, Inspector. I will answer what I can. My work is honest. Much has changed this season, yes, but not through trickery." Kuhn's eyes scanned the orchard, the hives, and the barn. "Then show me," he said. Cirrus and her daughters had heard the carriage approach. From within the barn, they watched through cracks in the wood. Fear gripped them. They had escaped one prison, only to risk discovery here. Cirrus whispered to her daughters, "We will not run. We face what comes with truth." Dal opened the barn doors before the inspector could demand it. Sunlight spilled inside, and the family was revealed. 5 dragons, resting not in battle, but in quiet dignity. Kuhn's breath caught for just a moment. The laws in his mind told him this was impossible, yet his eyes could not deny what stood before him. Ceres stepped forward, her golden scales shining in the dim light. "I am Ceres," she said. "These are my daughters. We came not as invaders, but as seekers of shelter. We wish only to live in peace." Kuhn studied her carefully. "You understand the weight of this. Treaties forbid dragons to enter human lands. Harboring you is an offense that could be called treason. Why are you here?" Ceres lifted her head. "Because our own people would not let us live. Daughters are treated as burdens, traded and silenced. My daughters deserve a chance to be more than shadows. We came here because hope guided us." The barn grew still. The inspector did not draw his weapon or call for soldiers. Instead, he said, "Then show me your work. Show me why this valley speaks of miracles." Nola guided him to the hives. She explained how she had reshaped the lids, adding vents that let heat rise without letting in rain. She showed how airflow kept bees strong and honey pure. Kuhn ran his hand across the wood, testing the fit. It was practical, not magic. Safi presented her clay figures, each shaped with care. She told how village children came to learn and create beside her. Kuhn turned a sculpture of a bee in his hand. Its wings were so thin, he feared they might break, yet they held firm. Tari stood at the orchard edge and sang softly. The bees shifted their flight, moving in smooth spirals, their hum blending with her voice. Kuhn's eyes widened. "They answer her," he whispered. Then Gia took his hand and led him to the largest hive. "Listen," she said. "You will hear calm now. Before, they were sick with mites. I asked the mites to move, and they did." She opened the box carefully. Kuhn bent to look. The comb was perfect, the bees strong, the hum steady. He stepped back, troubled yet moved. "I don't understand," he admitted, "but I see no trick. I see care, and I see results." Back in the barn, Kuhn sat heavily on an old crate. "The law says I must report you," he said. "But there is a narrow path in our code. A cultural exchange, a pilot program for learning between peoples. It was written long ago, but never used. Perhaps now is the time." Ceres bowed her head. "We ask for no power, only the right to live and work." Kuhn nodded slowly. "Then I will file the papers. You must know this will bring more eyes, some kind and some cruel. Are you ready for that?" Nola spoke firmly. "We are ready. Our work will speak for us." Over the next weeks, papers traveled to the capital. A small wooden sign appeared at the farm gate. "Learning Garden, Cooperative Study." His voice, quiet but firm. "People cannot be erased so easily, and people stand together." The valley held its breath. Bees hovered in the air, not in anger, but in steady patterns. Tari began to sing, her song weaving calm into the tension. Safi held her clay figures like small shields of memory. Nola stood tall, unflinching. Gia stepped forward, her tiny frame brave against the giant visitor. She placed her hand on a hive and said simply, "Listen." Voron paused. The word struck him harder than defiance. He tilted his head, and the barnyard fell silent, enough for the hum of the bees to be heard clearly. It was not noise, it was harmony. Thousands of small wings working together, each carrying its own weight, each contributing to a whole greater than itself. For a moment, the black dragon's hard expression shifted. He looked at Ceres, then at her daughters, then at the villagers who stood shoulder to shoulder. He did not bow, but he stepped back. He warned. With a powerful beat of his wings, he rose into the sky, his followers close behind. The crowd exhaled, relief washing through them. Ceres turned to Dal and Kuhn. "Thank you," she said softly. "Today, courage was not mine alone. It was shared." Kuhn unrolled the final document and signed it with his careful hand. "This place," he declared, "will be remembered as a center for shared care. Dragons and humans together, not in fear, but in choice." Villagers stepped forward, one by one, to add their names, each signature a promise to protect what had been built. Then Dal gestured toward a canvas covering near the barn. Nola and Safi pulled it away, revealing a new creation. It was a light frame shaped like wings, part glider and part hive, designed with airflow carved through its ribs. Painted along its side were the words "Murmurwing." "It is our gift," Nola explained, "a craft that rises with the breeze, guided not by force, but by balance." The bees themselves showed us how air should move. The villagers helped wheel it to the slope. Tari sang to mark the wind, and Gia guided with her small hands, sensing currents. Dal steadied the frame, and Ceres placed her wing beneath it for blessing. Then Murmurwing lifted, gliding across the orchard with grace. Its shadow passed over children, over hives, and over faces filled with wonder. Cheers rose, filling the valley with sound, as bright as sunlight. When the craft landed gently, Safi hung a small clay bell on its nose. It chimed softly in the wind. "This is the sound of welcome," she said. That night, lanterns glowed along the orchard paths. Families ate honey bread, sang stories, and shaped new dreams. Ceres sat at the barn door, watching her daughters laugh and plan. For the first time in many years, she felt not only safe, but proud. High on the ridges, a gleam moved once and vanished. Perhaps it was a watcher, perhaps only a star. But the valley no longer feared shadows. They had chosen to listen, and in listening, they had built something stronger than walls. The day the valley learned to listen became the day it truly began to live. And from that day forward, the orchard of humming light carried not just bees, not just dragons, not just humans, but the shared promise that freedom and kindness could grow side by side.